I got word from home that a postcard arrived from my middle school reunion. It's been 15 years since we graduated. There are probably some who look back on our junior high days with nostalgia. I wonder what kind of man my first love has become. Is my close girlfriend from back then married? Still, the word reunion holds no allure for me. I attended public schools through elementary and middle school, but I wonder if there's anyone who, when reminiscing about our classmates, would remember me. I always spent my breaks reading alone. The person I got along with best at school was the librarian. I was the only one whose library card was worn thin from so much use. Thanks to a teacher's idea to award someone in the class once a year, I got the most books read in class award once. That was fine until elementary school. But once we entered middle school, the so-called party girls began to claim the top of the class's social hierarchy. And me, being at the opposite end of that spectrum, was barely hanging on at the bottom. Even among them, there was a girl, Maureen, who picked on me all the time.
Hey, I thought it was a joke when they said humans evolved from monkeys, but looking at Sizzy, I totally get it.
As Maureen passed by me reading during lunch break, the boys and girls in class turned their heads. Pointing at my arm in the summer, clad in a short-sleeved gym uniform, Maureen laughed.
Wow, the hairs on your arm are so long. Gross. You're a girl. If you don't get rid of that, everybody is going to avoid you.
I couldn't say anything back, and just pretended to continue reading my book while my face turned red. I've always had a lot of body hair. It didn't bother me until elementary school, but gradually people started to care about their appearance, and I began to hear about shaving and hair removal. I've asked my mother several times to let me do it, but she was adamant that there was no need for hair removal. I tried to shave in secret, but because I have sensitive skin, I ended up with razor burn, turned bright red, and ended up getting scolded when my mom found out I'd shaved. My nickname became Gorilla Sizzy when Maureen made fun of the hair on my arms. Even now, recalling the worst event that makes me feel awful was the bullying during pool class.
Ew, your back is so gross. Your hair is all swirly.
I instinctively covered my back with a bath towel and fled to the back of the class. But then the gym teacher who came in yelled at me, "What are you doing with a towel on? Are you planning to swim or not?" I was on the verge of tears. There were kids who looked at me with pity, but there was no one who dared to stand up to Maureen. They were probably afraid of becoming her next target.
You're going to the reunion, right?
I really don't want to go if I can help it.
But isn't it unavoidable this time?
That's the case. This time, not going isn't really an option. It's because my homeroom teacher, Mr. Smith, passed away. He was the only person who cared about me when I was in middle school. We had planned to meet at the teacher's house during our summer holiday, and from there, everyone would gather together. Even after graduating middle school, I still kept in touch with the teacher, and the teacher's wife remembered me and wanted to see me. So I'm part of the group that's going to visit the teacher's house. Therefore, it would be hard to say I won't be attending the subsequent reunion. Until the day of the reunion, I was living in gloom. But I was indeed happy to see the teacher's wife, and hearing that the teacher had talked about me to her made me feel like my time as a student, which I thought was a dark past, was redeemed a bit. The reunion was to be held at a local restaurant run by a classmate who took over his father's business. When we left the teacher's house and stepped in the restaurant, many people had already gathered. I felt like I was immediately reverting back to my old self. My eyes were automatically searching for Maureen. Maureen was sitting at the top seat, dressed in clothes highly exposing her body. And she was waving big to the boy who had been class president, sitting next to me.
Over here, over here. Let's toast. Sit down quickly.
It seemed like she still thinks she's the one to control the class, making the members who came from the teacher's house sit at the table. In that case, I also had to sit at the table where Maureen was.
All right. Everyone got their beer glasses.
Maureen stood up with a glass of beer in her hand.
I am very happy to be able to gather with everyone from our class today. Nostalgia is a good feeling. It is unfortunate that our beloved teacher, Mr. Smith, has passed away, but I believe that the teacher has given us this opportunity to gather all together. Let us pray for the teacher's soul and express our gratitude for being able to meet again. Cheers.
Everyone followed Maureen and said cheers. After that, everyone was chatting while enjoying their meals and sharing their current situation. Next to me was Emma, one of the members who went to the teacher's house with me. Emma was a beautiful girl with fair skin, but she was quiet and I didn't talk much with her. I didn't really interact with you, Emma, when we were in middle school.
Yeah. When we become adults, we don't know why, but being in middle school felt like being bound by invisible rules. It was hard.
Haha, I thought so too. I was so scared that I felt like I didn't even have the right to speak.
When I was told to speak, my chest would tighten and I didn't know when to breathe.
We laughed as we remembered how we used to rush back to our seats after speaking in a small voice in one breath during class presentations. That's right, we're no longer children in our teens. We are already in our 30s and are grown-ups. While talking to Emma about what happened from the time we graduated from middle school to now, I was enjoying the food being served. But there was someone standing behind us.
Oh my, is that you, Susie?
I could feel my heart, which had completely let its guard down, tighten up instantly. Long time no see, Maureen.
Oh wow, you can actually speak now. Back in middle school, you always hid behind your books, and even when I tried to talk to you, you would just ignore me.
At these words, several people laughed as if recalling the past. Alcohol affected everybody, of course. I knew they weren't laughing out of malicious intent, but it didn't make me feel any better. I didn't mean to ignore you, but I was really timid back then. So if I made you feel bad, Maureen, I'm sorry. At that, Emma gave me a look that said good for you for saying that, and she smiled at me. But it seemed to work, Maureen.
You've become so assertive, huh? What happened? Did you find some hotshot guy after leaving our hometown who gave you a sense of superiority?
The idea that a man was an element to elevate oneself surprised me. Not really.
Thought so. You still look like a spinster. Never had a boyfriend, have you? You don't even know the joy of being loved by a man. Po thing.
We had grown up, but it seemed Maureen hadn't. Her crude way of steering the conversation, which made the surrounding men start boasting about their past experiences, deeply disgusted me.
So Susie is still a worthless human being even after growing up.
I felt a mix of pity and frustration at Maureen, who was laughing uproariously with a beer in hand. Maureen, a person's value isn't determined by such things. Are you saying that sleeping with men increases your status? At my words, the smile disappeared from Maureen's face.
What's a woman who's never been touched by a man doing, giving us lectures?
The value of a woman isn't determined by men. We ourselves determine our value. A value that needs to be determined by others can collapse at any time. That's when it happened. Maureen poured the beer she was holding over my head.
Thank you for your precious words. Let me express my gratitude by pouring this beer over you, Susie. It's a beer tower, not a champagne tower.
The venue became silent at her behavior, and critical looks were directed at Maureen.
Hey, that's not cool.
Could someone get a towel, please?
Just then, I received a call on my cell phone, and I answered it with beer dripping from my head. Emma, who was next to me, was wiping the beer off my hair with a towel. Yes, emergency consultation request, understood. I'll be there immediately. The car is already in front of the restaurant. After I hung up the phone, I stood up without saying a word. Everyone, I'm sorry for the trouble. I just got an emergency work call, so I have to leave now.
But your clothes are soaked in beer.
Just then, my staff member, who had already arrived to pick me up, opened the restaurant door and appeared.
Dr. Johnson, I apologize for disturbing you during your fun time.
I handed out a business card to Emma and Maureen. I'm the director of my own mental clinic. If you ever have anything weighing on your mind, please feel free to consult me.
You're a doctor?
Of the mind, yes. I smiled at Emma, then turned back to Maureen, who was staring at the business card in surprise. I have a husband now. He's a doctor, too, but I don't consider that a victory. I believe my value lies in my ability to be told thank you by my patients and friends, and having the knowledge and a considerate heart to offer. Beyond the door that the staff member had opened for me, I could see my husband's car. As you might expect, the sight of it made the men's eyes light up, exclaiming, BMW.
He said he was coming to pick you up, so I went against Dr. Johnson's orders not to come in a flashy car.
My husband leaning out from the car window and waving at us. I turned back to face Maureen once more, placing a hand on her shoulder. Your worth isn't determined by a man. Even if you get divorced, it won't hurt you. Don't be swayed by the word divorcee.
I never said I was.
I pointed to the ring finger on my left hand. On Maureen's left ring finger was the white tan line of a ring she'd taken off. When you face a divorce, you'll say and hear cruel words you've never thought you'd hear hurled at you. and it hurts. But don't believe those malicious words and think you're worthless. The moment I said that, Maureen's face, which had been strong until now, crumpled, and she began to cry out. I hated the me who was still affected by the bullying I experienced as a child, and I wanted to learn how to heal people's hearts, so I became a psychiatrist. And as I learned about people's psychology, I realized that it's people who enjoy belittling people like Maureen who have scars on their hearts. Maureen, call me anytime. As I stood up to leave the restaurant, Maureen looked up at me with a face soaked with tears and snot.
Susie, I'm so sorry for everything. I really am sorry.
I nodded with a smile and left the restaurant. Later, it seemed Maureen was comforted by her classmates and somehow managed to get through the ordeal of the divorce. And later, I was visited for a consultation by a child who had lost his father and become neurotic. If you ask me if the reunion was fun, it was the worst. But I was able to break my past curse, and I was also able to break the curse Maureen was carrying. So it was a good reunion. I want to continue to be a person who helps those in distress.
When I was 13 years old, my dad passed away from cancer. Though my mother has been a homemaker all the time because she was fragile ever since she was born, she had to start part-time job to support our family. I got permission from school and started a part-time job as a paper deliverer to help her. However, my mother is getting sick and being in and out of the hospital now. It's because she was juggling multiple jobs and overworked herself too much. As I turned 15 years old, I had a conversation with my homeroom teacher, Mr. Peterson, about my future.
Is there really no way for you to pursue higher education? You know there's a thing like student loan, right?
Mr. Peterson lamented and said that, if I don't work, my mother will overwork herself. I would rather get a job than pursue higher education.
That's a shame. With your grades, you could easily get into top schools.
I appreciated his words, and I actually love studying either. Ever since I was a kid, I was interested in the human body and dreamed like, I will be the doctor in the future. However, reality was too harsh. Afterward, Mr. Peterson desperately searched for the place of employment for me, but it was nearly impossible to find a company that would hire a middle school graduate as a full-time employee in this day and age. After graduation, I ended up juggling multiple part-time jobs. While continuing my paper delivery job, I worked at a diner during the day and at a gas station at night. I didn't spare time even for sleep to work. However, I faced prejudice only because I didn't have a high school diploma and became a target of petty bullying.
Who the heck messed up the change?
The manager doing the mid-shift cash register reconciliation at the diner yelled out irritably.
Well, there's only one person who can't even do subtraction.
All eyes immediately turned to me.
Johnson, be more careful.
What? No, it was not me.
Don't talk back. Why don't you just go home and do some exercises for elementary school, huh?
The other staff members giggle with his words.
Practice multiplication while you take the bath.
Oh, come on. He can't even do subtraction. Multiplication is beyond impossible.
The laughter grew louder. I clenched my fists tightly and endured it. It wasn't as if this place was exceptionally terrible. During my late-night shifts at the gas station, they'd explain to me the meaning of every single word in the work manual. They even harassed me like that. These incidents led me to job hop from one part-time job to another. I know my patience is not enough, but being mocked every day by those clearly less competent than me, only because I didn't go to high school, was more than I could bear. The only one job I continued was that paper delivery job. The elderly couple who ran the newspaper stand were really nice, and they always cared about me since I started working for them in middle school. That lady always made handmade sandwiches for me when I came to pick up the morning papers. Of course, I was grateful and happy, but a major reason why I continued this job was because Professor Harris from NYU ordered the evening paper delivery. It was kind of weird delivering newspaper to professor's office in the university, but it was happy more than anything for me. I had never met Professor Harris who ordered newspaper, But just being able to step foot in a university without hesitation was like a miracle to me. It's a renowned university with a medical faculty, where lectures are given in various classrooms. Due to the season, all the windows and doors were left open, allowing me to discreetly watch any lecture. Among them, there was one professor whose lectures I really liked and really easy to understand even for a novice like me. Every time I delivered the evening paper, sneaking peeks into classrooms was the only thing that gave me a reason to live. I would spend my time like this until the very last moment before my night shift starts, then quickly hop on my bicycle. Most of the students walking around campus were wearing a lab coat, and they all have a hopeful look. It was so bright and made me feel sad at the same time. But there was nothing I could do about reality. All I could do now was going to the library with the knowledge I secretly got and relearn it until I was satisfied. I knew it was just for my own satisfaction, but if I didn't at least try to improve myself by expanding knowledge, I was afraid I would truly become the trash like I was treated by them. Then one day, something happened. While on my way back to the newspaper stand after morning delivery, I heard a small child crying. Looked around to see what it was, and then I found a girl who is about 3 years old. She was standing just before the crosswalk and crying like, "Mom, Mom." As I approached, I could see a woman, heavily pregnant, panting and sitting on the sidewalk, appearing to be in discomfort. I contemplated going over to help, but the thought of my plans afterward left me unsure. I was due to start my new part-time job today. I didn't want to know what they would say if I was late even on the first day. There were plenty of people around that woman. Someone will step in, right? That's what I thought as I was about to walk away. But I stopped in my tracks when I heard a little girl screaming, "Mommy's going to die." The people around her look like they feel bad about it, yet nobody paused to help. It was the peak of the morning rush hour, after all. Everyone must be thinking the same as me. Damn it, what am I doing? I blamed myself internally, stopping my bike and approaching that woman. "Hey, are you okay? Are you feeling unwell?"
Yes, it feels like my head is splitting.
She managed to say that, and then she's bowing her head and covering her mouth with a towel. A headache. If I remember correctly, I've read somewhere that the woman who is pregnant can have headaches due to a sudden rise in blood pressure. I quickly looked at the woman's feet. Thankfully, there was no blood.
Could you call a taxi for me?
A taxi?
Yes. I need to go to my regular op/GYN.
I don't think that's a good idea. If you have a headache from a sudden increase in blood pressure, it's a dangerous situation for both of you and the baby. I'll call ambulance immediately. I took out my phone.
But my water hasn't broken yet. It's not an emergency. Not good to call an ambulance,
she said, gasping for breath. The little girl who was crying nearby asked me, "Is Mommy okay?" "Mommy's not going to die, is she?" "It's all right. We're going to see a doctor right away." "Okay, what's your name?" I asked as gently and calmly as I could.
"Sophie. Sophie Harris."
"Okay, Sophie. I'm going to call the ambulance. Can you place this under your mom's bottom?" I told her like that and took off my jacket. The woman started to say something, but I shook my head. Sophie took my jacket. I quickly dialed 911 and told them the address on a nearby pole. "They're coming right away. Don't move, just stay as you are and lean on me, okay?" I gently tilted her body towards me, trying to make her as comfortable as possible. Then, one woman said, "Here, you can use this if you want." She draped a blanket over her belly. "Oh, thank you so much." I was happy and I smiled at that woman without thinking. It is because I was so frustrated with everyone ignoring this situation. She was wearing a high school uniform.
It's fine. It's just something I was using during class. It's pretty worn out. You can just throw it away after this.
After saying that, this girl was going to leave, but she stopped, turned back and said, "You know, you're amazing. I feel kind of ashamed of myself." Then she left with a small smile. I was taken aback by her sudden words, but I was happy. Then, I heard the sound of sirens in the distance. I got into the ambulance together when it arrived, and I held Sophie's hand the entire way. When we arrived at the hospital, that woman was taken to the treatment room. A nurse asked me, "Are you a family member?" And I replied, "No, I was just passing by." Then Sophie shouted, "This man helped my mom."
That's right. You're in good hands with this kind gentleman here. Now, let me contact your father.
Then Sophie shaking her head and replied, "Daddy is working far away. That's why I'm always with my grandpa." The nurse nodded and turned to me. "The woman is Ms. Mackenzie Harris. I'll try to contact her father. I'm sorry to ask this, but could you take care of Sophie until then? The part-time job came into my head, but it's already late anyway." I nodded in agreement, sure. So I waited for her father to come down here. I wondered if she was okay. Though worried, there was nothing more I could do. I tried to distract Sophie with some small talk while we waited for the treatment of her to finish. "Excuse me, are you the one who helped my daughter?" Looking in the direction of the voice, I saw a man who is wearing suits and about like 50s.
Grandpa.
Sophie exclaimed and ran to that man. He caught her in a comforting embrace, then turned to me and bowing his head.
"Thank you so much. You calling the ambulance probably saved her life."
Looking at me, the man seemed to recognize me.
"Wait a second,"
he said with a puzzled expression. I also felt like I had seen him somewhere before, so I looked at his face.
"She is out of danger now. I just spoke to Miss Mackenzie. She told me that you responded very effectively. Are you by any chance a medical student?"
I blushed at his question. "No, not at all. I just read some books, that's all. I didn't even graduate from high school and work part-time jobs." Then that man sat next to me and smiling.
"Don't be so modest. I have no students who listen to my lectures as attentively as you do. You are truly a med student."
Upon hearing this, I exclaimed, "Oh, this man was the professor who gave the lectures I always secretly listened to. Did you know I was listening? That's embarrassing." I couldn't raise my head. I worried that he thought my knowledge was childish.
"I did notice. A student as enthusiastic as you is rare these days. I was deeply moved. I thought you were a student from another school."
"I'm sorry. I'm just a part-time worker. I haven't even been to high school."
Would you mind telling me the reason why? I can't imagine you didn't further your education because you dislike learning."
I explained to him everything that had happened until now. Sophie, she is completely relaxed now and was dozing on the professor's lap. Nodding several times during my story, the professor remarked with apparent admiration,
"So, it's thanks to the evening paper what I ordered that we could meet with an interesting coincidence."
Yes, I didn't know that the professor whose lectures I loved to listen to was the same Professor Harris to whom I delivered the evening paper. At this, Professor Harris nodded. At that moment, the treatment room's door opened and the nurse said, "The procedure is over. Please come in." I stood up and said, "All right, I leave now. I'm truly glad that both Ms. Mackenzie and the baby are safe." Holding my hand, and Professor Harris said, "Thank you. We'll speak about my gratitude later," and walked into the treatment room. Sophie kept turning around and waving at me. As expected, I lost my job on the first day. But I felt satisfaction from the bottom of my heart. The next day I went to deliver the evening paper to the professor's office as usual. Professor Harris was seated and waiting for me.
"Today, I thought you might take a test. It's a simple test of 3 subjects. Would you be up for it?"
He handed me 3 printed sheets. I was surprised, but also I was interested in it. So I took a seat and tell him I would love to. The questions were on 3 subjects: English, math, and national language. At a glance, it looked like a middle school level test. When he asked me how long it would take, I replied, "An hour is enough." He satisfied with my answer and left the room. It had been a while since I had taken a test last time. I felt a rush of nostalgia and happiness, and I finished the test in no time. I had always loved the middle school textbooks and read them again and again every day. The professor came back and graded my paper.
"All perfect scores. Impressive."
I felt a bit shy as he expressed his surprise. Well, they were just middle school questions.
Indeed, they are primarily middle school level, but they are actually part of this year's GED test.
GED.
Yeah, it might be more familiar if I call it the exam for getting qualification to take university entrance exams. It's the exam for folks who haven't finished high school, but still want to apply for college.
Oh, even so, what was this all about? I must have had a wondering look on my face. The professor chuckled heartily.
My apologies. I skipped ahead with my explanation, but I needed to know your academic level before I could propose anything. Sorry for testing you without any context.
No problem, sir. So, what's the proposal?
Yes, Johnson, would you consider working with me, studying for your GED and applying to medical school?
Suddenly proposed, I was left speechless.
The job is miscellaneous work, but you can read any of the books here and I'll make sure you get access to the university library too. I'll pay you 3 times more what you're making at your current part-time job, so I'd like you to quit and focus on your studies. And of course, I'll be the one teaching you. What do you think about it?
Even when asked for my opinion, I was still struggling to understand the situation. Yet, I vaguely understood that an incredible stroke of luck had just knocked on my door.
Surely the fact that you saved the lives of my daughter and my infant is a factor. But I was truly moved by your story, John. In this day and age, it's rare to come across a young man with such fervor for learning. I don't want to overlook this joyous encounter. Would you allow me to take you under my wing?
There was no dishonesty detected in the professor's passionate speech. Joy slowly filled my entire being, and I was reduced to tears. Are you really